Gildan Media, a division of Recorded Books, presents Entrepreneur Voices on Company Culture by the staff of Entrepreneur Media, Incorporated. Edited by Derek Lewis. Foreword by Jason Pfeiffer. Narrated by Paul Heitsch and Norah Tocci. Foreword by Jason Pfeiffer, Editor-in-Chief, Entrepreneur Magazine. Why do you like working here? As the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur, overseeing a staff of journalists and producers, it's not a question I'd ever flat-out ask someone on my team. Just imagine the awkwardness of that. The manager fishing for compliments, the employee scrambling to say whatever they think the manager wants to hear. But any manager can hear employees answering that question on their own. It happens in beautiful, unexpected moments. Maybe in a meeting. Maybe in office kitchen chit-chat. Maybe, frankly, at the nearby bar over happy hour. Colleagues will start trading notes about their past work experiences, and will soon circle back to their current shared experience. What's successful here, they'll ask. What's not? Listen closely in those moments. If you've built your company's culture the right way, you'll already know the answers to those questions. Company culture is a hard phrase to define. It's an abstraction, not some specific set of policies or a blueprint you can overlay on any organization. Rather, it's a collection of things, large and small. It's a sum of parts, of how employees are treated, of how they treat each other, of what support they find at work, of what day-to-day life is like for them, and what produces their greatest sources of enjoyment and pride. It's often said that there is no right or wrong culture. There's only a culture that works, or a culture that doesn't. It starts with a leader, but must filter completely downward. Company culture requires cohesion. Everyone must buy in. At some level, you, of course, know this. You wouldn't have picked this book up without it. You understand that companies live and die by their culture. It may not be as tangible or even as visible as the product you make or the revenue numbers you flaunt, but culture is the foundation upon which all the rest is built. And yet, you aren't alone in wondering how to improve your own company's culture. It's not an easy, straightforward, or simple task. The answer is different for everyone. That's why we've structured this book the way that we have. There are no one-size-fits-all guides to company culture. That would be literally impossible to write. Rather, this book is a collection of essays, of ideas, of conversations, of experiments, of insights, of the absolute best and most useful thoughts we found from people who truly understand how to build culture the right way. By understanding the experiences and insights contained in this book, you'll develop the instincts to shape your own culture. So, back to that question, why do you like working here? Recently, I had one of those wonderful moments where my team started answering the question. It happened while some editors and I were sitting around talking about the state of our industry. Media folks do that a lot these days. It's a wild and uncertain time. And soon, inevitably, the conversation turned to our own jobs and our own experiences. One editor said he liked how small our team was, that everyone's role felt extremely well-defined, and that, as a result, we all trusted and knew exactly how to work with each other. Another said she appreciated how supportive we are of side projects, that this is a place that expects hard work but that also respects ambition and supports its employees' growth. Another liked how flexible we are about time. We trust that everyone meets deadlines, so we're not especially concerned about where any one team member is at any one time. This was all gratifying to hear because it was exactly what I wanted my team to experience. It is, frankly, an extension of my own vision of the perfect office, a tight, self-motivated superstar team, with each member eager to kick butt because they feel fulfilled by their work while never feeling trapped by it. And it was also a self-fulfilling vision. I hire people who I know share these values and who approach work the way I do. I've always had side projects throughout my career, for example. They've helped me widen my skill sets, and I'd inevitably plow those skills back into my full-time gig. I wanted team members who did the same. Can I continue to improve our culture? Of course. And I want to always be mindful of that. But I tell you this story as a way to say I had a vision and found people who shared that vision, and as a result, the culture I wanted filtered through my team. It starts with the leader. It starts with you. And this book is your starting point. What comes next is the fun part. Preface. Culture is your edge. While you might think of company culture in terms of morale, productivity, and success, it's important to consider the deeper, potentially life-changing aspects of culture, too. Your company's culture is not just about what you do. It's also about what you allow, what's acceptable, what's unacceptable, what's completely unacceptable. How do you create a culture that honors your company's mission as well as the people who help foster that vision every day? Your answers to those questions not only determine the course of your company's future, but they affect the life of every stakeholder in your company, from your investors to your employees' loved ones to the person who swaps out the jug on your water cooler. As the interview with the founder of WP Engine points out, you already have a company culture. The only question is whether you're intentional about it. Surely no entrepreneur has said, I want to start a company where we hurt people and degrade their sense of self-worth, where our employees hate to come to work and where we scam our customers and vendors. That's the kind of business I envision. Quite the opposite. Many entrepreneurs went off on their own specifically because they hated their employer's way of doing business. They wanted to build a wonderful company where people love to work. Most entrepreneurs truly want to create more than just an amazing product. They want to create an amazing company. The great thing about being an entrepreneur is that you're in charge. It doesn't matter what stage of the game you're in, from simply having an idea to being a solopreneur to managing scores of employees. As the founder, owner, and chief bottle washer, you get to say what flies and what doesn't, unlike, say, the CEO of a decades-old global behemoth. Unfortunately, culture is often an afterthought. It only happens by accident, with little thought as to how it's shaping up until the way it's always been done around here becomes so entrenched that changing anything is like turning the Titanic around. But it's never too early to start. Literally. In fact, the best time to get crystal clear on your vision for your company's culture is before you ever start your business. The second best time is right now. The companies we know best know that growing a great culture is a work in progress. United Airlines can't change its culture to copy Southwest Airlines' success and results. Herb Kelleher started shaping the airline's unique approach to business when Southwest had only two routes, Dallas-Houston and Dallas-San Antonio. Because the company did such a great job infusing the company's spirit into its early years, it's taken on a life of its own. You'll note the same spirit in the interview with Todd Graves, the founder of Raising Cane's, now the fastest-growing restaurant chain in the U.S. Even when the company was just Todd and a handful of part-time college students serving chicken fingers to other college students, he knew how he wanted his restaurant to feel, how he wanted his employees to feel, and how he wanted his customers to feel. The moral of the story is it's never too early. But wherever you find yourself in your entrepreneurial journey, you don't have to go it alone. What you're about to hear represents some of the best articles from Entrepreneur. In short, these are the best of the best. Our team of writers helps you navigate the ever-changing world of company culture, from how to attract and keep great employees and build morale, to taking your in-house culture to the broader community through great outreach. For example, we address the tokens of superficial workplace culture, often using ping-pong tables as a prime example of something decidedly not representative of what culture truly is, to the point that we had to edit out at least half of the references to keep the repetition at a manageable level. Apparently, we are either sick of ping pong tables or sick of hearing about them. Maybe both. You're going to hear about the time an entire company's staff that quit all on the same day, leaving the owner to pick up the pieces. The story of the restaurant with a Best Butt award will surely stick with you for years to come. Perhaps most poignant is the last section of the book that deals with what to do if, like many entrepreneurs, you look up one day and find that you have a dysfunctional culture. What do you do? You see, this book isn't about how to copy the vibe of some cool tech startup. We focus on the things that matter, the cultural elements that result in not just great places to work and great balance sheets to boot, but that create a better environment and support a better life for everyone involved. We are serious about doing good while doing well. A great company culture is not just a nice thing to have, but an essential factor in the success of companies going forward. Companies without a strong sense of purpose and direction will be left behind by those whose people love to come to work, whose customers love to work with them, whose leaders can't wait to get to work in the morning. This isn't a book about culture. It's about the future of how we do business.
Part 1. Clarity. As you're about to hear, we now have solid data to back up what great entrepreneurs have intuitively known for years. Companies that are great to work for outperform their competitors, whose employees dislike showing up for work. That's on virtually every quantifiable measure, from productivity to bottom-line revenues. But the best places to work for didn't arrive there by accident. Those companies' cultures were deliberate. The founders and leaders found clarity about what was important, what was trivial, what was non-negotiable, and what was necessary. We kick off this section with 2 chapters that represent what much of this entire book is about. Chapter 1 dispels the idea that workplace culture necessitates a literal workplace, and that company culture is about the people, not the place. Chapter 2 puts 2 companies side by side that on paper should be identical, yet are diametric opposites solely because of the culture their founders set in the beginning. This first section packs a serious punch with inspiration, hope, and insightful expert interviews. By the time you're finished, there shouldn't be a doubt in your mind on the absolute necessity of having a clear vision, communicating that vision, living that vision, and reaping the rewards of that vision. Chapter 1. Creating one of the best work cultures in America, with 0 offices. Sarah Sutton Fell. In February 2017, Entrepreneur and Culture IQ released their 2nd annual list of the top company cultures in America, featuring 153 companies with high-performance cultures. For the 2nd year in a row, a company with a completely remote workforce is included on the list, FlexJobs. As the founder and CEO of FlexJobs, I can tell you that while this is an honor, the distinction is particularly appreciated because many people think that a remote company can't even have a company culture, let alone a great one. It takes a conscientious effort and continuous dedication to build an organization that actively supports workers to do their best work and be their best selves. All the companies on this list believe a thriving company culture can fuel the fire of a growing business and result in a better bottom line. The inclusion of FlexJobs on the top company cultures list highlights that it's possible to have a remote company with a fantastic company culture. Furthermore, it points to the idea that remote work can even enhance and benefit company cultures. Entrepreneur and Culture IQ focused on 10 core qualities of culture. 1. Collaboration. 2. Innovation. 3. Agility. 4. Communication. 5. Support. 6. Wellness. 7. Mission and value alignment. 8. work environment, 9, responsibility, 10, performance focus. Remote work is well suited to support each of these qualities. Addressing all of these qualities, let me share how we built one of the best company cultures in America at FlexJobs. Agility, performance focus, and mission value alignment. We are a mission-driven organization to help professionals find jobs that fit their lives with such options as flexible scheduling and the ability to work remotely. The fact that all of our own workers are remote means that our very way of working aligns with the mission and values of our company. Remote work often strips away face time and office politics. This naturally leads to a culture that focuses on results as our main performance measure. When and where people do their work isn't usually important. How, why, and what is. And of course, we use remote work to find the best talent. Hiring someone based mainly on their skills and their fit with our company culture rather than location ensures that performance is a vital factor in recruitment and retention. Work environment, support, and wellness. Flexible work environments allow companies to better support their workers, especially when it comes to wellness. A flexible work environment acknowledges that our workers are whole people with full and sometimes complicated lives outside of the office. And it doesn't do the company or the individual any good to make them feel they need to shut that part of themselves off when they start work each day. Take our buddy system, for example. People going on parental leave or dealing with a serious illness can be matched with a coworker who has experienced something similar. These connections help people cope with the full range of life experiences inside and outside of work, allowing people who've gone through something challenging to share their knowledge and experience to help someone else. Because of the independent and sometimes solitary nature of our work, cultivating connectedness is one of our primary goals in creating a great culture in our workplace. Collaboration, communication, and innovation. One of the most pervasive myths about remote work is that it stifles collaboration, communication, and innovation, that people lack those interpersonal dynamics unless they physically work together in an office. However, our team members say they feel more connected in this virtual space than they did in jobs co-located with others. The only difference in how in-office professionals communicate versus remote professionals is the lack of in-person meetings. Most remote workers find they're able to communicate well without those, substituting office FaceTime with video conferencing, video calls, and occasional in-person meetups. Proactive communication is how we approach working together, encouraging everyone to speak up, ask questions, and clarify ideas when they aren't sure about something. Also, each team sets 30, 60, 90-day goals. Big ideas are encouraged, and processes are always being refined to foster innovation and remove roadblocks. Because of our explicit focus on ensuring that remote work doesn't interfere with collaboration, our communication channels often work even better than some teams who all sit in the same building. Responsibility. I saved this cornerstone of our company culture for last because it's so important. A remote work environment is built on trust, specifically. Trusting everyone to act as responsible professionals capable of doing their jobs well in an independent work environment. I've worked with some of the folks at FlexJobs for years without ever having met them in person. Our people accepted their jobs without setting foot in a traditional office or meeting face-to-face. Therefore, as a company, every level of our operation starts with a baseline of trust. That's the key aspect of a remote company's culture. We don't have bricks and mortar. We don't have offices or water coolers, cubicles or conference rooms. Instead, the way we work together is our brick and mortar. It's our infrastructure. Our company culture is the foundation of everything else we do.
Chapter 2. Uber versus Lyft. Exact same tech, entirely different cultures. Jeremy Swift. I can't recall ever speaking to my Uber drivers. I pressed the button, they showed up, and off we went. Transaction complete. Then one day I switched to Lyft. Suddenly I was chatting with my drivers. Sometimes we talked about mundane topics, but not always. One driver told me how he stopped driving at night after an intoxicated man became verbally, then physically, abusive. The driver punched his attacker in self-defense, then drove the man to the hospital and called the police. Another driver told me how driving part-time allows her to go back to school and pursue a teaching degree. Another driver told me how she supplements her freelance work as a graphic designer with Lyft rides, and how, on several occasions, those conversations with her passengers actually led to graphic design gigs. Here's perhaps the more interesting thing I've commonly heard. Although many people drive for both Uber and Lyft, they never expect to have a conversation with their Uber fares. These are virtually identical services and virtually identical platforms, yet Uber somehow fosters transactions while Lyft creates experiences. Same basic technology, two starkly different cultures. Same service, different companies. How? Uber has a 4-year head start on Lyft, a tremendous advantage in any field, but one that's especially important in tech. Uber remains the market leader, but Lyft has gained momentum, 1 year tripling its number of rides from the previous. There are plenty of reasons why Uber is losing ground to Lyft, but I link many of them to the company's problematic culture. Culture, after all, is the context for our relationships, both transactional and authentic. The culture of any organization, big or small, takes its lead from the top. The good and bad of that culture permeate every level of the company, but it also extends out into the world where brand meets customer. There are plenty of examples of Uber's culture problems, including reports of blatant sexual harassment, blackmailing journalists who wrote unfavorable press, and threats of physical violence against employees. But the most relevant example is Travis Kalanick himself, who stepped down from his post as CEO of the company he co-founded. The incident that sparked that was when a video surfaced of Kalanick in an ugly exchange with an Uber driver. After a public backlash, Kalanick apologized. That was the right thing to do, but Kalanick missed the larger point. An Uber driver, the only living, breathing connection between a technology platform and its customer, was telling Kalanick something about authenticity, or rather, the absence of it, at Uber. What the driver was saying was that Uber needed to be a better partner. That is where the rubber meets the road. Either you subscribe to a transactional worldview that says every engagement is an opportunity for maximizing your return on investments, or you take a more holistic view toward building authentic relationships that create value for all stakeholders over time. The culture is the code. Both companies allow passengers to tip, but only Lyft makes it easy for riders to do so. Sure, we're only talking about a few bucks, but the difference is huge in terms of the human experience. By making the tipping process opaque, Uber marginalizes people, and as a result, it reduces every encounter to a transaction, one in which the driver can expect to be overlooked. In contrast, Lyft makes tipping accessible and transparent, opening up the opportunity for a more authentic experience. These decisions are driven by culture, but they're enforced by computer code. While the interplay between culture and code has obvious implications for rideshare drivers and their passengers, it also permeates the rest of our society. Have you ever unfriended someone on Facebook for political reasons? Sure, the political climate is ugly these days, but isn't unfriending someone you disagree with just as transactional as the culture at Uber? And it's not just politics. Professionally, we reduce ourselves to the narrow box of a LinkedIn profile and demand others to do the same. One of the great paradoxes of the digital revolution is that the more we connect, the more transactional we become. Our social and professional networks are huge, but they're also shallow. Avatars, not people, populate them. Yet, all the while, we crave authenticity, not just from our leaders, but also from our friends, our spouses, and even the brands we choose to give our business to. Tech enables transactions. Service enables connections. Sure, service can be transactional. I never had a complaint about the service rendered by my Uber drivers. But those transactions never amounted to anything more than a charge on my credit card. Whatever relationship I had with Uber wasn't authentic, and it certainly wasn't built to last. But Lyft? That's a different story, and one every tech CEO can learn from. Chapter 3. The Secret Weapon of Disney, Apple, and the Patriots. Matt Mayberry. Have you ever stayed at a 5-star hotel chain that made you feel like you were their most important guest? Have you ever visited a store or dined at a restaurant where the customer service level far exceeded your expectations? Have you ever wondered how a sports team is in the playoffs seemingly every year? Sure, some people are just good at what they do, and when you gather a bunch of talented people together, you're bound for success, right? Wrong. It has everything to do with a culture that is easily identifiable, attainable, and respected by everyone working within the organization. Whether your culture revolves around creating a 5-star service standard, a family environment, a winning culture, a customer is always right culture, you must have one, and it must be clear before your employees can buy into it. Creating a distinct culture within your organization is everything. Whether in sports or business, you must set a concrete foundation and have an understanding of what your culture is, and it must be found in all that you do. Although we often hear about the importance of culture, I still find that so many overlook how vitally important it really is. A weak culture, or one that is never firmly established, can completely diminish performance levels within an organization, even if that organization possesses the best strategies, products, and talent. On the other hand, a distinct and thriving culture can certainly make up the difference for just average strategy and talent. Please don't get me wrong. Create the best strategies and recruit the best talent for your company. But understand that all of that is secondary to what matters most, your culture. I have witnessed its incredible importance in my own life. During my time as an athlete, I was on teams that didn't have the most talented players in the world. We still got the job done and won games as the underdogs. That came from the result of leadership instilling a phenomenal culture from day one. I have also been on teams with extremely talented people, but results on the field were mediocre at best. That same team lacked a definite culture. Leadership didn't set the tone of how the team should function, so it was every man for himself. In sports, of course, the main objective is to win, but if there is no set process outside of individual talent, no set standard for all to buy into, and no leadership driving it, a star-studded roster means nothing. In my world as a speaker now, I get the wonderful opportunity to travel and work with leaders from different industries. Prior to each speaking engagement, I sit down with the leadership of the organization to take a closer look at the culture of the organization and identify where I can add the most value. During this time, I usually find one of two things. In some cases, I find a leader who is incredibly passionate about creating a dominant, healthy, and strong culture. These are the organizations that have great employee retention and morale. The rest of the time, I usually find leaders who aren't as passionate about building a strong culture. They, unfortunately, end up falling into the trap of directing all their focus on outcomes and results. They fail to realize that a strong culture is what largely...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?